Okay, Marichelle, go ahead, Marichelle.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Marichelle Morales, chiropractor here in Jersey City. Thank you, Brian and Sue and Jackie, for these meetings and having me here. I guess, what is your name, Doc?
Phil.
Phil. All right. So I graduated from Life University back in the 90s. And I stayed at Georgia, in Georgia for a while. I worked with Dr. Robert Bracco. I was telling Brian about him the other day. And then I also worked at Life for a little while with the student clinic. And from there, I got an offer to work as a chiropractor in Costa Rica. So I was in Costa Rica for close to 17 years, working with this chiro, and then I ended up getting the practice. And basically, that's my bulk of my practice life as a chiropractor. Very basic. People love it. They definitely love chiropractic. And then I remarried, and I remarried a fellow here from the U.S. So I moved back about 7 years ago, and my husband has lived here in Jersey City. He's from Long Island, but he's lived here in Jersey City for close to 10 years now. And myself, we got married like 7 years ago, so I've been here basically 7 years. Like I was telling you guys, I was born in New York City and Queens, but I also lived many years in Manhattan. So New York City is kind of like my home, but I also like to be kind of like far away. And I like Jersey life. It's definitely more relaxed at this stage of my life. I worked about 5 years as an associate chiropractor and here in Newark, New Jersey, serving mostly Latino community and Portuguese and Brazilian. About 90% of our patients were construction workers. So it was like a mixed clinic of personal injury, insurance, and all that stuff. And of course, eventually, after like 5 years, I was like desperate to be on my own, so I just started my own little practice about a few months ago, not too long ago. But it's been difficult. I've had my challenges. I'm in my 50s, and I think life caught up with me, and I have to deal with a lot of undealt issues from my past. And it's not like I'm not foreign to therapy and different kind of inner work. I have done a lot of that, but it's always in layers. So now it's different working on my own. Now it's like I'm really almost like I feel like I have a mirror in front of me, and I'm just coming to see a lot of blockages, mental, psychological, probably spiritual, of course, that I was not even aware when I was in Costa Rica. Maybe because of course I was younger, I don't know, but maybe this is the midlife crisis. So anyway, so I'm just like wrestling with a lot of these things, and as a result of this, I am doing some psychological work, but especially spiritual. There's a lot of spiritual work. Maybe, I don't know if I'll have time to go into this, but what I'm going through right now is more like taking care of my soul. And I like to teach, and I definitely, it's also like I learn more as I teach. This is kind of like where I'm at right now. So taking care of the soul is what brings changes in our lives. And what I'm learning right now is that what we believe about ourselves is the foundation of our lives, and it's also very tied to our identity. So basically, I'm just gonna make a drawing, because as I make drawings, a lot of these like very intangible principles become more tangible to me. So if we have a home, as we know, every construction, we're talking about buildings, right? This has a foundation, and I see here that I have to even check. I have a sister that's an architect, but foundations are usually like this, and it takes a while to build a foundation. So the foundation is very tied to our beliefs in our lives. The foundation of our lives is tied to our beliefs, and those beliefs kind of decide our identity. And of course, this is our life. Our life is right here. So many times, if we have false beliefs about ourselves and others, what I'm studying right now in a church Bible study is that these beliefs, if they're based on lies, some lies, then those lies are going to shake the foundation. They're going to crack it. They're going to cause like certain cracks and our foundation, of course, that would not be good for our lives, because those beliefs, if they're based on some lies, they're going to shake the whole construction, basically, our lives, and that's not really who we are. So, what we have to see is like what lies we're believing about ourselves, and the solution to a lot of that is really build our foundation in truth. I'm a Christian, so our truth is always said it's the Word of God, and we have to find out what God says about ourselves, and especially in the New Testament, God says who we are. We're children of God, through Christ, and as we change the lies for truth, then we will know who we really are as a person and as a whole. So
I want to ask Marisha anything. Anyone? One more time, anyone? You stunned everyone.
Thank you.
I wrote it. So the next person can write. Okay. Anyone else like to come up? I'll go then. I have an Edward X. Young story. Now, the guy Edward X. Young, most of us know him. He's a colorful character. He's an actor. Close this door. What's better? Anyway, we were in a pizza place once, not far from here. And Ed has a very loud voice, and he's telling all these wild stories. And there was 2 police officers next to us. And then when they were getting up to leave, I said to the officers, I go, how do you like his stories? And one guy goes, they're very nice, but I don't know if I believe them. I don't know how much of these things he says are true. And Edward X. Young goes, that's the sign of a good actor. The guy just looked at him and walked out of the place. To me, that's Edward X. Young being himself. We have to be ourselves. And I was thinking about, you said truth. And Pasquale would always, he'd say, they would say, the truth will set you free. He says that's not, we went to clarify that more. He says, knowing the truth sets you free. Yeah. So I asked myself, what's going to help me know the truth? And I'll get to, that for me is chiropractic, because it makes me be honest with myself. I get to look at myself in a loving way and have the safety to look at myself and see these stumbling blocks that I need to get rid of. It's like I get to jump out of space and time, look at myself, see what I have to do, then I jump back in. I still have that security, that sense of safety to have the courage to work on those things I need to work on. And I said, for me, I suggested I do a small sequential steps, because it's intense if you don't. And that's really, I truly believe we are God's image, and in that image is really just, that is true, it's true love. And chiropractic helps me see that, and it helps me, more important, bring it forth and live it. So that's all I have to say.
Awesome.
Does anyone want to ask me anything? Anyone? One more time, anyone? All right, we'll clap. Going well. The floor is open for whoever would like to speak. Phil's going last, so he can't come up yet. You got three guys who grew up in Brooklyn.
You guys do. Oh, me too. All right. Good evening, I'm Fernando, chiropractor, Brooklyn. So I came to a profound realization that was so simple, but I've always had a little bit of issue, not always, but handling the patients. I'm sure we all do. And I think for a while, it was like, I think I even spoke about it, just like I gotta go with the flow. You never know what's walking in the door. Ryan says no small problem walks in the door. So I was always like, how do I manage this stuff? Sometimes I'm there by myself. So you get this direct charge, people just coming in, and I'm gonna get them taken care of, and people want to go off on other tangents. So after 20 years, I realized when these people walk in, my first reaction now is just to go, I'm just going to find something on this person that I really like, or I say I love, some kind of aspect of them, and just go with that. That's my initial thing. and it's been going very well for me. I've heard that we should stay amused, and sometimes in life it's hard to stay amused. And when I started doing that, just looking for like, I'm gonna find like the one thing I really vibe with this person. Even if it's like, okay, they're attractive, I like how their clothes looks, whatever. I find more humor in situations with the people, the way they present. To the point yesterday, this lady came in. Well, first I went out. She wasn't ready. She ran into the bathroom. Her husband was there. He didn't know what was going on. I spoke Spanish to him. He started speaking English to me, which is always something I go, all right, like, you know, she already ran away. Now this guy speak, you know, we're not communicating here. So when I'm ready, I would start normally going, all right, it's gonna be, you know, she came in. She had a host of. I said, what brings you here today? She goes, everything hurts. And usually that would get me to a point where I was like, oh man, I'm gonna be really in for it. But she was, I just said, oh, look at this lady. I mean, you couldn't, she just looked, she did look jovial. I picked out the jovial thing. She was very happy, she was cheery. And I took care of her, I did a good job. And you know, the older guy was there, and he said even some stuff that I've always kind of thought was fascinating. Like he was like an older guy, he was older than she was, and she was younger than she appeared. And he was like, after the adjustment, she was in such a good mood, I guess. He was like, I'm doing good, I feel great. And he started doing karate kicks and throwing punches. And this is like an older guy, and he was having a really good time. And it was just, everything went much more smoothly than me like, throwing up barriers like I might have before. So it's a good perspective to take, especially when you're seeing a lot of wildness. You know, I gotta say, I think that to coming down to self-center and keeping that kind of focus, instead of trying to think of, oh, the person's coming in, you know, we're gonna put, what kind of care plan am I gonna put that's all wild, that's going off to left field. Anyway,
All right.
that's all I have to share.
Anyone like to ask Fernando anything? Anyone? Marshall?
When you say that you have some, you know, like I was saying too, wellness in the office, does that help you like maybe see what's going on with me? Like is there something in myself that may be reflecting from the outside?
Yeah, I mean, coming down here, people say, you know, people come in are a reflection of yourself. And when I look at, you know, you look at the wildness, but then I go, it's pretty, the wild part is how smooth things go normally. To be where I'm at, even just the fact that I've been open 12 years, you could walk in sometimes, I won't be in the front, and you know, wild things could happen. Everything's very calm. But the guy around the corner, he's got to make sure he has his door locked and a buzzer, and people come in all the time to ask for a bathroom, and he has all kinds of stresses like that. I go, that doesn't happen here. So anyway, yes, definitely. It's a reflection. The whole point was, you know, that we see things, we are projecting. And I was projecting, you know, I don't know what I was projecting, back pain and taking care, instead of just going, okay, I already realized after 20 years, I can only do what I can do today and forget about the rest of this stuff. If they jump on board, they jump on board.
Anyone else like to ask Fernando anything?
Yeah, how about all these years you've been there and all the people coming in, I've heard you talk about the people all the time and taking care of them. What's one really big thing that you think you learned from those people? Like if you had to condense it down to, what did you get? What's the takeaway?
When I started practicing, I thought I was going to open up a shop and, you know, hey man, come get adjusted. It'll be so easy. People are going to flock there, want to be healthy, come on in. And I was like, and realized that does not even exist, you know? And it's like, you know, coming to that realization, man, I'm so far away thinking-wise with these people. That's why I just gotta be nice to them and, you know, see what I can offer. You know, I have a lot to offer them and just be pleasant and see where they're at. Just take them where they're at. You know, don't force anything on them, you know, and just hopefully bring them along if they want to. Some people, it doesn't matter if you have love in your heart or whatever, they're just not gonna want it, you know. And some lady, I was had this idea and I smiled at her. She was way in the back and she was like the third person she was gonna come. And I smiled at her and she smiled back at me, but it was almost like then she changed her look. Like, why is this guy smiling at me? I think we had issues before. So then she came in and I was like, oh, I kind of remember this lady. She's a kind of pain in the ass, you know? But I was like, you know what? I already know she's gonna be. So when she's like, you know, you move your hair from one spot to the other. She's like, no, it was over there. You're like, all right, you know, okay. I know she's gonna do this stuff. I'm not gonna tell her, hey, I know or anything. I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna do my thing. But I don't know if that answers your question. But just let people be, like Brian would say, let people be who they are. And I just have to do what I do. Just, you know, if they want chiropractic, I give them as much chiropractic as I can give them one day, if they let me, you know, if they want it.
What's is there a difference between when you worked in Spain as a chiropractor and in Brooklyn?
I mean, the body types. I thought that was the first thing I noticed. I remember coming in and seeing a guy was big, tall. I was pretty, there's some guys who are obviously big, they're Spanish basketball players and stuff like that, but in general, I was like broader than the guys. So everybody had a certain body type. Everybody's from the same community. It was like you're seeing the same kind of issues. And when you come to Brooklyn now, you see, you're gonna see everything.
All right then. Excellent. The floor is open for whoever would like to come up.
The ones left of it. Not here. You please.
Anyone?
Did you wanna go? Your camera up?
He's gonna talk about the
I
Mets.
guess
He
so.
wants to talk about the Mets.
Feels nice.
His love of the Mets. Get up there. Come on. You were crying.
Yeah, Mets. I'm like a Yankee fan, and I've been watching the Mets. Speaking of the Mets, Mark Johnson, Brooklyn, New York. 'Cause everybody's from Brooklyn. Anyway, everybody got Brooklyn in their heart somewhere. Everybody comes through Brooklyn somehow. And so anyway, yeah. I mean, the last playing the Milwaukee Brewers, I mean, that was like a fight, seeing the Mets. I never got into the Mets the way this season has turned out, because they were doing crappy all the way through, and I think even the Mets fans. So looking at them go there, and then they win, and it was a real battle between it. And then I flipped to watch one of the Yankees games, and yeah, it was okay, but it was kind of like boring, you know? And then I watched a Mets game, and I'm like, geez, they're on fire right now. And then they moved on to play the Phillies, and I'm watching those games, and they're like two runs up, 2 runs down. They won the first game in the Phillies in Philadelphia, and I'm like, man, it's really like, it charged me up. It really got me enthusiastic about baseball again. And then I flipped to the Yankees, and I like the Yankees. My family's always been Yankees fans forever. My dad was from New York too, and he always had, you know, Yankee stuff. So, and I'm watching the Mets, and I'm like, you know, they're really on fire. And then all of a sudden, that game, their bases loaded, and boom, they get a home run. It's like a grand slam. I'm like, geez. Then I flipped back to the Yankees, and it was like, the game's like, all right, 2 outs, this and that, really boring, you know. So watching the Mets, I'm glad that, and I don't want to use all the time for that, but anyway, it was a big charge. And I was thinking of you when you were talking about people coming in, your patients coming in. I've been doing this so long, it's almost like I can almost second guess what people are going to say, that it kind of gets boring, and I have to really kind of like think about how to charge my practice back up and get the passion back in it, because I don't have it right now, because I feel like I'm in a state of flux. Like, I think I'm not going to ever really retire, but I'm thinking I'm probably going to be moving, I feel like I'm moving into another phase of my life, or maybe sell a house, move in, work with some, I'd like to work with a group of chiros, like younger ones, you know, like be there, not babysitting and working like being a manager or anything in a practice, but also be involved with a lot of youth, you know, young, because I have a lot of young kids that still come to me, and we just had a new baby born in the office. I like all that stuff, but I feel like I've been like in this shell for so long, I don't know any other way, you know, and I feel like it's time to like break out into not a retirement thing, but a different type of focus into go, and people go, oh, maybe you'd like to teach, and I'm like, nah, it doesn't sound like I want to teach. If anything, I want to shut up. We talked enough. All that we've said, but I do believe in education. Like, you got to educate your people in chiropractic, because they don't come in with it. And if we don't educate them, they're not going to know what it is. And they go and they think, oh yeah, I went to this chiropractor. He's not just a chiropractor. and I hear this all the time, not just a chiropractor, but he does therapies and he does acupuncture, all this kind of stuff, and I go, and I used to always turn around and go, well, you know, this is what chiropractic really is, and then clarify that whole thing, but I even stopped doing that. I just let them know what I believe chiropractic is. And one other little cute thing, that I was at a meditation place in Princeton today, but they were talking about, they have a whole different view on, when you were talking about your life, your belief and all, about karma. There's karma that you're born with, which they call natural karma, and then they talk unnatural karma, which is what we develop when we're playing out our real karma, how you deal with your life, how sweet you are, how loving you are, whatever. You can either create a lot of unnatural karma if you can't stay in that love mode. And so I looked at them and I went, either way, you're kind of screwed. Because you're coming in with these things that you got to work out in your life to like learn to love and be connected to God, the universe, and everything. And then you got to act through that stuff, and you're supposed to do it in a loving, beautiful way so that you burn this karma out of your life, but you attract unnatural type of karmic things. So anyway.
Anyone ask
Time's
Mark
up.
anything?
Not about the Mets either?
Anyone? One more time, anyone?
So, oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So do you find that people are just very predictable in general?
Yeah, it's almost like, and it's been like that for a while. Like I know when they're coming, and I wanna say to them, when's the train gonna come in the station? Because I know what question they want to ask, but they can't formulate it. So, and even sometimes people making appointments, I do appointments. So it's kind of like, and I'm like, it's like, well, you know, I can't do Tuesday. I'm like, look, just give me a time. I'll find somewhere where you can come in and get adjusted if you want that day. You know what I mean? But it's like it's a struggle, and it's been doing that. That's why I know I need some kind of a shift going in my life energetically, and with the chiropractic passion and everything like that. Because that chiropractic this saves my life, man. I love practice. I love being with people. I love adjusting people, seeing what's going on, because I don't really know anything else to do that would be as exciting and cool as chiropractic. So it's not like I'm looking for a replacement to it. It's just, I feel like a lot of the people, yeah, and it's not like it's boring, but sometimes it is. And I'm just being honest, because everybody here, they've been in practice, they just retired because they got money and they want to go play. You know, it's not like I'm looking to go play somewhere that I haven't wanted to play anyway, you know what I mean? But I think there's different phases, even in us, in our lives. Like Pasquale, he taught, he did all kinds of things at Self-Center with all of us and put time in. Maybe there's something that we do as we get older and, you know, you evolve into a different sort of practice. I don't know.
Anyone else like to ask Mark?
Soul searching
Yes.
Anyone?
from an old Cairo.
Anyone else like to ask Mark anything?
No.
All right, Mark, excellent.
Thank you, bro.
All right. Can I say anything, young man? You don't have to.
I have questions. I just want
To ask Mark?
Well, just general, because as
Well, we'll do that.
yeah,
Just, you can get up here. I don't want to force you. But if you don't want to come up.
Do it, man. You'll love it.
I'm a little shy.
All right.
You're
then.
shy with us. There's nobody on TV. Nobody's gonna ask me anything. Hang in there, man. I know it sucks.
Watch your language.
He's a good guy, though. I can tell. He got
All
some
right,
good
I'm going to
stuff.
have our featured speaker, Phil Bracco.
What guy? Huh? Right back.
Hi, I'm Phil Bracco from Red Bank, New Jersey. Actually, Brooklyn, New York. And I practice in Staten Island forever.
Yeah.
Uh,
You've been forever,
You
too.
know what? Every time I give a talk, I always leave out stuff. So I decided I was going to write stuff down so I don't miss anything. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about history. You know what? Sometimes my grandmother came to this country in the 1890s, and time went by, and I spent time with Grandma, and grandpa and stuff, but I never really got to ask them important questions. Like, you know, what was it like in Italy? Why did you leave Italy? You know, what was America like when you first got here? And then what happens, time runs out. Grandma and grandpa are gone. I was, you know, young at the time, and I never got to ask the questions. So I want to talk a little bit about history tonight. And also, like, we know how Pasquale started with chiropractic, but like Dr. Stanley was a big part of the self-center. I never really asked Stanley, you know, hey Stanley, how did you get involved in chiropractic? What got you started in chiropractic? You know, and things like that. So that's what I want to talk about tonight. I just wanted to, you know, just get it all out. So I'll talk about myself at first. You know, I went to a Catholic high school. I think Brian was talking about that before, it was funny. But in my Catholic high school, it was very simple. They told me to take these classes. I took the classes. You know, it was over, right? I never had to make a choice of what class would I like to take. It was always there for me. So after high school, I went to college at Southern Connecticut State College, and I'll never forget what happened to me the first day. I had paid my tuition like a day late, and it got there late. So they canceled all the classes that I had picked, and I was going to be an economics major. So lady gives me, the registrar's office, lady gives me a piece of paper, and she goes, go make a schedule. So I go make a schedule? What does that mean? So I'm asking people for help. The place is packed. There's a wall, it's got to be 30, 40 feet long, and it's filled with computer paper. I never even saw computer paper before, dot matrix, right? With the green and the white, the green and the white. All the classes, so I go over to my economics classes there. Everything is filled up, there's nothing open. I said, oh boy, what am I going to do now, right? So I'm looking around, all right, what else is open? The only thing that was open was biology classes and chemistry classes. So, you know, 17 years old, I go, you know what I'll do? I'll be a biochemistry major. And that's, you know, you say, well, you know, was that by chance? Was that by chance? Or was it planned? You know? So I've come to believe that it really was planned. Okay. So after that, I was, so I'm a biochemistry major. Still not really knowing what I'm doing. I'm just taking biology and chemistry classes. Okay? At the time, I met a friend of mine, a young guy who was my age. We were in school together, and he's telling me he's going to be a chiropractor. So I was like, oh, that's great, you know. And he keeps talking to me about chiropractic, talking to me about chiropractic. I said, okay. At the same time, my sister was dating a guy. And I was telling him, you know, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with biochemistry, but, you know, I really don't know what to do. Maybe chiropractic, I don't know. You know, maybe I'll be the dentist, who knows? You know, it was really like anything, you know. So he goes, well, you know, I have a good friend of mine, Dr. Bob DeBonis. He's a real good friend of mine. He says he practices on the west side of Manhattan. He says, I know every Wednesday he gives a lay lecture to his patients. He says, why don't you go there and listen or talk to him? And maybe, you know, so I did. And I went. And I listened to what he had to say. Actually, there was 3 doctors who worked in that office. There was a guy named Jan Teitelbaum, a guy named Jay Hant, and Bob DeBonis. They were 3 guys together. And everybody gave the lay lecture, but they did like a third. You know, it was funny the way they did it. And that night I got very excited about chiropractic, and I got my first adjustment. And so that led me to Life Chiropractic College. And I went to Life in 1980, and it took me about a year and a half to get everything I needed to get to chiropractic college. But in June of 1980, I was sitting in Marietta, Georgia, and the first influence I had was Dr. Sid Williams. And Dr. Sid at first was a little tough to understand because he had that southern accent, but I finally got it, you know. But it wasn't so much, it was what he said, don't get me wrong, but That guy was very enthusiastic about chiropractic. I could feel it. He was concerned about chiropractic. He loved chiropractic, and he wanted chiropractic to grow. Okay? And he wanted to keep chiropractic sacred and pure. And I always remember him saying, you know, the DOs, osteopaths, he says, the osteopaths in the 50s, he says, they were separate, they weren't medical doctors, he says. And then the medical profession came along and said, we could make you doctor of osteopathic, MD. And he says, and they all jumped on it, and they went for it, and he was trying to keep us separate. He says, that's not gonna happen to us, we're not gonna let that happen, so on and so forth. So that was my first influence at Life College. And then I found myself, my first few months there, I found myself at a DE seminar. And what I learned at the DE seminar was that there were other people, other chiropractors, just like Dr. Sid, who were very enthusiastic and excited about chiropractic. And it even got me more charged up. I mean, I was ready to go, and I just started chiropractic college. So, 1983, I leave Life, and I graduated like on a Saturday. On Monday, I was working at Dr. Tom Pastersky's office in Margate, Florida. I don't know if you know him or have heard of him. But Dr. Tom was a real loving guy, one of the most loving guys you've ever met in your life. And I wanted to go there because I wanted to get the experience of working with high volume. So the office was running about 12 to 1,300 patients a week, adjustments. It was high volume. There was 4 doctors, don't get me wrong. I was one of them, but initially I wasn't adjusting until I got my license. When I got my license, I started adjusting. So there was like 4 doctors there, you know, and I thought I was like in heaven. But then I realized that, you know what, I want to do my own thing. So I left after about a year and a half or so. Year and a few months, and I opened up my office in Staten Island in May of 1985. So in May of 1985, here I came from this office, we were running 1,300 visits a week, and I'm sitting around, and I was saying, where is it? Where are all the patients? So little by little, I started to pick up the pace and started getting some patients coming in. And things started working out well, but I still wasn't really where I wanted to be. So I had an idea. What I was going to do was I composed a little letter and saying, I'm a chiropractor and I would love to speak at your group or organization. And I hand-delivered it to every public school, every Catholic school, every Knights of Columbus, anything or anybody. I brought it to the place. And I'll never forget, it was a Wednesday evening. I'm sitting around in my office, it's like 6 o'clock at night. The phone rings, and a woman gets on the phone and she says, Dr. Bracco, yeah, you left a letter here at St. Teresa's, one of the Catholic schools in the area. She said, we have a guest speaker tonight, but they canceled at the last minute. Do you think you could come by and be here by like 7:30? I said, sure, I could be there by 7:30, right? Not knowing what to expect, so I go into this gymnasium. I walk in, not really knowing what to expect, but there must have been 200 women at this mother's club. They're sitting at tables of 10, there's like 20 tables of 10. So I get up and I give the best talk that I could possibly give. And at the end of the talk, I said, you know what? I said, if anyone's interested in chiropractic care, would like me to, check your spine. I said, just come up to me after I'm finished when the meeting's over, and give me your name, and I'll write it down, and then we'll make an appointment for you to come in. There won't be any charge for the first visit. So I'm standing there. All of a sudden, like 45 women are surrounding me, and they're all giving me their names. So I break out some index cards because I was too busy. I said, here, take an index, take an index. Put your name and number, I'll call you during the week, next week sometime. And next thing I know, I had like 35, 40 people, and they brought their husbands and their children. And the next thing I know, I swear to God, within a month and a half or 2 months, I'm seeing like 250 people a week in the office. It went like that. So I was really thankful for that. So maybe that helps somebody out there, and may help. All right, let me skip over that. Let's skip over that. Let's skip over that. Okay. So that was 1985. Right. So in 1986, there was a man called, his name was Bill Remley. He was a chiropractor in Queens, and he used to hold a philosophy night every once a month on a Saturday evening in an auditorium or underneath the church someplace in Queens. And what he would do is people would get up just like this and talk, and then at the end he would have one of the chiropractors give their lay lecture to the group. And he would ask for volunteers, and I really didn't want to do it because I've spoken to people before, but I've never spoken to my peers before. And I was kind of a little bit nervous, but I volunteered. I said, what the hell, I'll do it, right? So I did it, and it went okay, you know. And after that meeting that night, Bill Remley came up to me and said, you know, he says, there's this guy, Pasquale Sarasoli, he was at the meeting here tonight. He said, he runs a meeting in Brooklyn, and he said, Thursday nights, he says, you might want to go down there. He says, you could help practice your public speaking. I said, okay, so I went, you know. And I'll never forget the first day I went to the self-center. I mean, here's this building, there's 3 doors to it. I'm like, I remember Sora when the first day I came, anyway, I really didn't know what to do, where to go. It's like up in the air. There's a lot of questions, and I'm looking at this building. But I remember Brian's wife, Sora, the first time she came down to the self-center, and I was with my wife when we were going to the meeting together. And we're outside. I get out of the car, and I see this woman, and she's looking at the building, and I go, are you here for the self-center meeting? Yeah, I am. Oh, come with us, come on. And we took her downstairs to the meeting.
Don't break it.
Anyway, so, and that night at the meeting, Pasquale gave a talk, and I got up and spoke for a couple of minutes, what have you. But the thing was, when it was over, we would go into the back, and what did he call it in the back?
Fellowship room.
Fellowship room, whatever. We sit and talk and laugh and have some fun. But he made me feel so at home the first night that I was there. He made me feel like I belonged there, and I was welcome there. And it was such a feeling that I had on the inside that I said, you know what? I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna keep on coming down here. Okay? So a little while longer, you know, I'm in my office. This woman comes in and she has MS. I might have told this story in the past, but anyway, she was like 38, maybe 35, and I adjusted her. You know, I practiced in Florida, and I never had anybody with MS before. Not that it matters, but I just never had that experience. I had people with back pain and neck pain and sciatica, and you name it. You know, kids and babies, but no one with that disease. So I adjusted her about 4 or 5 times, and I said, you know what? I need help with this lady. So I called Pasquale up, and I said, Pasquale, you know what? I got to make a house call. She can't even get into my office. I was telling him about her. I called up her husband. I said to the guy, I said, listen, you mind if I bring a friend of mine who's a chiropractor? He's been in practice like 60 years or 50 years, whatever it was at the time. You mind if I take him? He's going to try to show me how to help your wife better, so that so I can take care of her. You know? He says, sure, bring him. So we pick up Pasquale after work. We go there. It's like 9 o'clock at night. Pasquale's got on his suit, tie. We go into the room. This lady had, they tell you multiple sclerosis, they have scanning speech. She was like, I couldn't understand a word she was saying. Really, it was that bad. And her arms were like, her legs were flying all over the bed. So Pasquale got it to turn on her side, and then he administered this, what he called reflex technique. It was a very, very gentle. All he did was just very gently start to just put his finger, one finger on the lower lumbar, and the other one was on the sacral area. And he just started vibrating his hands on her. And within like 10 minutes or so, she calmed down, and her arms and legs started to stop moving around. She was able to talk again. understand it very well. And he said, well, you see what I did? He says, now you come here and take care of her. I went there 7 days a week for 3 years straight to her house. And I never asked her for a penny. Never asked her for a penny. All right, so, long story short, after that experience in the house, I said, Pasquale, let's go out to eat dinner. So we're sitting around eating dinner, and I said this to Pasquale. I said, Pasquale, I want to know more so that I can help my people better. And that was it. After that, me and Pasquale had a friendship. He was one of my best friend, I would say, from that moment on. Okay. So, a little while later, Pasquale got invited to speak at a Renaissance seminar in San Francisco. And I said, you know what, Pasquale, can I come with you? We'll share a room together. And we did. And Pasquale gave a talk. And he lit the place up, standing ovation. But living and staying in the room with Pasquale, I didn't understand everything like what he was going through. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, he'd get dressed and go out the door, and he'd come back around 9. And I was like, where the hell is this guy going? You know, at 6 o'clock in the morning, you know? Well, I found out later on that he would go to like a coffee shop, sit there with a pen and his paper, and he would get wisdom, and he would write his information down. Even in San Francisco, he was doing that. There was no let up with him. Okay. So I wanted to speak about, next part of my talk is some of the experiences that I had at the Self-Center, on Thursday nights. And there were so many of them, but this one, these few stick out in my mind the most. One night we had a scientist come down. His name was Jerry, I can't remember his last name. In fact, I got him to come down. And he did an experiment right there in the Self-Center. He had a plant, and he put these, I guess these microphones onto the plant's leaf, and you could pick up the tone of the plant, and it was like a nice. Then he went over to the plant, and you ever see when you want to glue something together and you hold it with like a clamp? He clamped onto the plant's leaf, and the plant sounded, it was like this screeching, right? So it taught us that plants are alive, but they express life through tone. Right? So that's that. Okay. And Pasquale had an amazing way. He could explain things to you in like simple terms, and you understand it. So Pasquale introduced me to this word tone. I never heard of tone before. I read BJ at Life. They talked about BJ. Nobody talked about DD. Very rarely. So in the first few pages, it said the basic principle that DD wrote of chiropractic is tone. Pasquale explained tone to me. Explained tone to us on Thursday nights. I remember he took out these Tibetan bowls when we went to upstate, and he started vibrating the bowls and put out a tone. He was trying to explain it to us, and if you increased the frequency that you would go around, the tone got stronger or higher. And now we can understand, I started to understand, oh, tone inside of the body. And it helps me understand that better. Oh, and then also, over the years, many years, students would come to the Self-Center because there was a chiropractic college right there in Long Island, so it was easy for them to get here. So they used to come to Brooklyn on Thursday nights, and what we started to see is that more and more of the students were afraid to adjust people. Not afraid, but they were afraid, kind of like, afraid they were afraid to adjust people. I guess they taught them a lot of fear in college. So one night, Pasquale, we had all these students, and Pasquale was on fire that night. I mean, he was just like, he was lit up. And the end of his talk, he was talking to the students there, he's saying, talking about adjusting, he said, put some jism in your adjustments. Right? And what I think he meant to, what he was trying to say was this, was you gotta put your love, your heart, your soul, your concern, your caring, put yourself into that adjustment. And I got that night, okay? And then another night, we had a rip-roaring fire. He had a fireplace in the back, and he must have kept throwing wood on it, and more wood, and more wood. The fire was like almost out of control, but it was within the fireplace. And we were all sitting around, and all of a sudden, we look at the fireplace. The fireplace is bricks in the back. And as God is my witness, those bricks started to change. And out of the bricks, coming out towards us, was the face of Jesus Christ. And I wasn't the only one who saw it. Everybody in the room who was there said, it's Jesus Christ. It was clear. It was clear that's who it was. So that was another experience that I wanted to talk to you about. And then one more experience I think I want to tell you was this. One night we had this woman who was a chiropractor. She was young girl, young woman, and she practiced out, I think it was in Washington State. She happened to be in Brooklyn. She came to the Self Center. And she gave her like a 3-minute talk, you know. And then somebody asked her this question. They said to her, when you adjust someone, what are you doing to them? What are you doing to them? And she said this. She said, every time I thrust into, when I make my adjustment, I give the patient or the person small pockets or packets of love. That's what she said. And I never forgot that. So that night, when we were finished, we were in the back, and Pasquale said, in the back room, and Pasquale said to me, you know, that girl, she's got it. She's got it. So that was a great experience. So through our hands, if our intentions are correct and our thoughts are pure and our intentions are pure, we send love into our patients. People need love more than anything. Their mothers and fathers don't love them. Their families don't love them. Their friends don't love them. They don't even love themselves. Right? So when we give adjustments, we're sending in a purified love right into them. And that's really something that we could do that. And how many times did you adjust someone on the first visit and they get off the table and they say this, you know, I feel lighter. They're not talking about weight, right? Though, because it could go for weight, but they're not talking about weight. They feel lighter. You put in that love, you turn on the light inside of them. And they're thinking, they're using that word. They could say anything. They could say, I feel stronger, I feel better, I feel worse. I don't know how I feel lighter, right? Isn't that something, right? L-I-G-H-T, right? And when we make our adjustments, we're causing, or we're hold on a second. Let's do the page. Well, we're creating a shift, as Pasquale said, a shift in the consciousness of people. And with each adjustment, and there's lots of different ways people are changing their consciousness. But through chiropractic, changing people's consciousness. And when they have a spiritual shift, right, when they have a spiritual shift towards, then they'll shift towards chiropractic. And then that's really what we truly are all about. Okay?
Anyone like to ask Phil anything? Anyone? Evenson.
So,
How do you, are you able to sense if that love that you send is received?
You know what? I can only dish it out. All right? It's up to the person to accept it.
And I'd also like to ask Phil anything. What is that, what do you do to put yourself in, I guess, in that state to allow yourself to send the love through that?
Well, I talk to myself.
Yeah.
I get prepare myself. On my way to work, I say, first of all, I thank God for this wonderful day and all the beautiful things that He created, plants, sky, blues, clouds, everything. And thank you for these two hands, because these hands are miraculous. With these hands, I can do amazing things. And today I'm going to love everybody, no matter what. I don't care. I'm just going to love them.
And we'd also like to ask Phil anything. Anyone? Anyone? One more time. I knew you'd Marisol.
Tone, can you elaborate more on tone, like how to
Well,
sensitive people on patients?
Okay, so when Dee talked about tone, he talked about tone of the nerve system. I don't know, so nerves vibrate at certain frequencies or tones. That's what Dee was talking about, okay? And many years ago, chiropractors did the thing, which you don't do fine anymore. They used to do the thing called nerve tracing. You ever hear of that? So they would pick up on the tone of or the frequency or the tone of a nerve, which was like vibrating at too low or too high of a frequency, and that would lead them back to the spine, and they would adjust it. But tone to me means it's just the expression of life, but good life.
Anyone else like to ask Phil anything? So, anyone? Well, excellent. Great job. Thank you. All right. Excellent.